assigned to?
Zone 3.
Okay. And were you working that same zone, Zone 3, back in 2015?
Yes, I was. Yes, sir.
And can you briefly tell the jurors where is Zone 3 contained?
And we are back, and we are back. Thank everybody for watching today. Y'all, hit that thumbs up, y'all. We are back in court. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up. It helps us out, and it helps you because it helps us. Now, check this out, y'all. For a second day in a row, D.A. Love is not in court. Now, this person you just saw in the coming up, this is Mr. or Attorney Abate. I think I'm pronouncing that right. You might recognize that name. He's the one who signed Monk Tonk's petition for probation revocation. Remember, this happened just a few days ago on October 9th. Today is October 14th. D.A. Love, she was the one who was there and read off Monk Tonk's factual acknowledgments back in 2022 when he had agreed to a set of different acknowledgments that he was going to testify to. She also questioned Monk Tonk this year, just last month, when he kind of broke that agreement, or at least that's what the state is claiming. But she did not, she wasn't the person who signed off on the probation revocation petition. That was Abate. And ever since then, Love has not been back to court, y'all, if you remember. So we didn't see Love on Friday. Today's Monday. She's not there. And now Abate's there. People are starting to wonder, is Love gone? Is Love lost? Have we lost Love? So you are going to notice today, this is definitely a sit back and relax, y'all. This is kind of a long, drawn out day. But the prosecution got 6 different witnesses on and off the stand today. And the judge at the very end, you won't see this, but the judge actually commended the state for their efficiency today while Love was absent. So people are speculating, is Love gone? Is she off the case? Is she fired? We haven't seen her in a while. Anyway, y'all, we're going to go ahead and get into it. Again, this is definitely a sit back and relax, a bunch of kind of dry evidence, but, we go hard here. We're made for battle. So I'm sure y'all are going to want to see this, okay? Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and let's get into it.
Agent.
Hey, good afternoon, sir.
Good to see you. Can I ask you some questions starting with State's Exhibit number 180E, which should be the April 26, 2015 discussion and conversation that you gave to the jurors?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, do you know that date to be a shooting of a bus or a tour bus?
I do.
All right. And is it fair to say that the locations that you put up in front of the jurors entitled the Vault or the Compound Establishment and 285, those are all Atlanta locations. Is that fair to say?
They are.
And Jeffrey Williams, I represent Mr. Williams, right?
I do, sir.
And Jeffrey Williams' cell phone was not in Atlanta during that date and those times. Is that fair to say, according to the records?
Yeah, that's correct. His device.
And his device would have been in the city of Baton Rouge, state of Louisiana.
Yeah, there's 2 different devices. One's the YSL, the 8553. That one's in Baton Rouge. And then there's another one, 2920, with a 504 area code. That one's in Miami.
On April 26, 2015?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, how many contacts, if you were asked, first of all, let's be fair to the jurors. You did not personally investigate this case, didn't interview witnesses and things like that. Is that fair to say?
100%.
You were just tasked or requested, and your agency, but specifically you, by the district attorney's office in Fulton County to look at certain records that they gave to you.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And then they gave you from those records what they specifically wanted you to target, like this phone number on this date or this time, et cetera. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
And then you would do what I think you call a draft report and then send it over to the district attorney's office and say, here's what I think you asked me to do. Here's my draft report. And they would say, actually amend this or do this, or we wanted you to do this. And then they'd send it back to you, and eventually you get a final report.
Yes, sir, that's how it goes.
And the person that you dealt with at the district attorney's office, maybe more, but at least District Attorney Adrienne Love, is that fair to say?
I dealt with her and Ms. Hilton for the drafts and final.
Now, going back to my question, will you ever ask, or do you know, dealing with the April 26, 2015 date, according to the records that you analyzed, how much contact Jeffrey Williams' phone had with any of the other phones? And by that I mean Mr. Winfrey, Mr. Zachary, Mr. You could help me here if you want to.
McMullen,
Go ahead.
Zachary, Sledge, all of those. No, for this incident, the only toll analysis, meaning who called who at what date and time, is listed in the report itself. So, if you looked at various pages, you'd see this phone had some activity and had it with this phone. So I didn't create a chart with the toll analysis on this date.
How about did I interrupt you?
No, sir.
Were you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay. For Jeffrey Williams' phone, though, what other phone numbers, according to records, had any contact with the phone number records assigned to, had you assigned them, or the district attorney's Jeffrey Williams' phone?
Yeah, the two devices, again, one was the 2920 number. Again, that one was located in Miami. I don't recall any of the calls to or from that number. And then there was the 8553, the YSL Enterprises phone number, the one that's in Baton Rouge. During this time period, I can take a quick look. But I was not asked to analyze calls between those numbers other than what's in the report.
Okay. And the number that you said is in Miami, is that the 2920 number?
It is, yes, sir.
Okay. And is that number, do you know if it's been designated? If it's not, just say, I don't know, or to a man named Brian Williams, also known as Birdman. Do you know that?
That does ring a bell now that you brought that up. Again, my analysis just shows Williams in the phone analysis on page 7.
Okay.
So I don't recall, but I think it may be associated with the Birdman Williams or whatever you had called it.
Okay. And then I think you answered it. I think it's clear, but no calls, contacts, communications that we can tell from the records with Jeffrey Williams' phone or the phone in Baton Rouge. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
All right. I'd like to now go to what I believe to be State's Exhibit number 532Y, which I think is your report focusing on what I call the Donovan Thomas shooting, killing January 10th and thereabouts, 2015. So if you could focus on that date, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, what year were you asked to review these records, you think?
Probably sometime in early 2023, maybe late 2022.
So we're talking from January 15th to late 2022, or I'll just make it January 2023, just to make it easy, approximately 8 years.
That's correct.
Now, if you were going, you explained to the jurors that you found out the height of a cell tower. Do you remember that? Explain that to jurors.
I do.
And that was important because you said it's a larger tower, so possibly, I'm not saying you know, it might give more of a range. Is that?
Yes, consistently when we, see towers, the towers with the taller line of sight have more range than the shorter towers.
My question is, did you do that analysis on height for each of the towers that are in play that you discussed with the jurors?
I did it with the majority of the towers, probably not every single tower that was used in that analysis, because again, the height of the tower isn't always important. It can be important if we see something that might be different with the analysis.
And were there other towers that are tall And if
There are.
yes, are they frequent? Is it the aberration
To have a tower that's 150
in
feet tall?
2015? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say it's an anomaly, but it depends also where the towers are. So towers in downtown Atlanta, most of those were not 150 feet up in the air. We see more of those kinds of towers as you get outside of the city of Atlanta. Most of the towers in Atlanta, there's some that are that tall, and then there's some that are obviously just put on corners and other kinds of things, and they're, maybe 15, 20 feet tall.
And did you designate for us in your report the height of each tower that was employed or used in this case?
I did not.
All right. You could do that, though, if needed?
I could review the records, and if those records, not all the providers keep the height of the tower in their records. Some do, some do not. But if that information was available, I could put it in my report.
And just to be fair, since we're just dealing with the records, how about like maintenance records, like a tower's down? Does that come into your analysis at all today?
Well, we know if a tower's down, it didn't get used, right? Because only the towers that are used are shown up in the CDRs. Also, in part of our trainings and meetings with service providers, as part of our routine business, we learn that obviously it's a big business. So if things go down, that's an emergency situation for the provider, and they get them fixed within hours. So no, we don't typically review maintenance logs because, again, we can see the towers that are used because they show up in the call detail records.
So let's say, just for purposes of what you're explaining to us, that a tower is, I don't know, it's been hit or damaged in some way. So it's not usable. How would we, but that tower still comes up on your report, I presume, because you went back and looked at all the towers in 2015, January 10th, 11th, 12th, whatever dates are, right?
So the towers that show the tower and sector activity were the ones used in the call detail records. So if those were used, we know that those are operational because they're obviously used by the phone at a specific time period on January 10th or 11th. Could there be other towers that are down? Potentially, there could be.
Okay. And I think that's my question. And I'm just saying because the handset or the cell phone really is designed, the whole premise is to get the strongest signal. So we have a clear connection. Is that accurate?
Correct.
And generally, I'm not saying this always is happening, but the strongest symbol could be the closest tower. It doesn't have to be like you explained, but that would make sense to the company building all the towers.
It normally is. Yeah. Not always, but normally is.
So if my handset that I'm going to use was closest to a tower, but that's inoperable for whatever reason, my handset would still go to the next potentially closest tower or the strongest signal. True?
That is true. Correct.
But on our diagram, we wouldn't know if a closer tower is unusable, and that's why the handset used a different tower and sector. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. So again, obviously it's feasible, but in discussions and in the training we received directly from T-Mobile, Verizon, the percentage of towers that go down for maintenance is minimal. I don't recall the exact percentage, but it was very, very small, like less than 1 to 2% of towers are down at any specific time. So could it have happened? I can't say in 2015 that it didn't happen, but again, it wouldn't really change the analysis too much because I'm not saying that a device is at this side, at this location right here. I'm saying it's in this general area, which again is serviced by a tower that we know was used because it's in the records.
Now, do you know what a geofence is?
Yes, sir, I do.
Would you mind explaining that to the jurors?
Yeah, so a geofence is a way to request activity from different providers. So the most common geofence is from Google, to ask Google, hey, provide any and all devices that are within a certain area, a geofence. So you provide a latitude, longitude spot on the earth and say, hey, provide me every device that's within 100 meters of this one spot I just asked for. And so based on activity on those devices, if it responded with a certain location within your area of interest, Google would say, yeah, hey, these 100 devices were located within your area of interest.
And that doesn't have to be a text message or a telephone call. Is that true? From the
Well,
device.
So are you talking in today's 2024 or 2015?
I'm sorry. I'm limiting it to January 10th, 2015.
Yeah, so in January 2015, the cell phone providers were not providing any information for geofences. They just couldn't pull information that way. What they could pull would be a tower dump. So instead of a geofence asking for a spot in an area, we ask, hey, for this address, give me all the towers that service this address, and they could provide the cell phones that use the towers in that area. That's called a tower dump. But in 2015, geofence was not really a thing yet.
Okay. All right. Now, I want to talk with you about some of these records, if you don't mind. Do you remember telling the jurors before our long break that there was a call at approximately 7:29 p.m., January 10, 2015, from the device or the number that we associate or the record we associate with Demise McMullen's phone to Mr. Jeffrey Williams?
I do, sir.
Records. And they told the jurors, I believe, that it was a 40-second phone call. Do you remember that? And if you don't...
I do.
Okay. Whose records did you use to get that duration of that call?
So that came from the calling party, which was Demise McMullen, the McMullen phone.
Okay. Did you, and if you need to see it, we're going to show it to you. Did you ever analyze the records associated with Jeffrey Williams on that exact date and time of that call? Did you?
I did.
And tell the jurors what the number of seconds that call shows on Jeffrey Williams' records, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I believe it's 17 seconds. Correct me if I'm 16, 15.
We could show it to you if you want, but I'm going with 17. But
Yeah, I believe it's 17.
But if you want to see it, there's no problem. That's a 30-second gap. And I've asked you about that before, right?
You have, sir.
Can you explain why whose records, if you remember, and this is not a quiz, if you need to see it, Demise McMullen, who keeps his records?
Those Verizon records.
And who keeps the Jeffrey Williams associated records?
Let me just take a quick peek here.
If you're looking at something, just
Those
say
are
what you're
T-Mobile
looking at.
records.
Okay, and just say what you're looking at.
Oh, yeah, I referenced 532 Yankee, my PowerPoint analysis, to see that the number associated with Mr. Williams ending in 3904 was a T-Mobile record.
Okay. Do you know why on the T-Mobile record 17 and on the Verizon record of Mr. McMullen 47? And if you do, just say yes or no, and then I'd like you to explain.
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so again, the calling party was the Verizon phone number ending in 6080 associated with Mr. McMullen. And again, that's a 47 seconds. And then the records on the receiving side was the device associated with Mr. Williams, 3904, T-Mobile record. That showed 17 seconds for T-Mobile. 47 for Verizon, 17 for T-Mobile. The difference is when you place a call, so each provider keeps records slightly different, meaning they're not mandated to, in their duration time, that it's only talk time or only time in which voice is transmitted. Verizon keeps their records for what's called seizure time and elapsed time. So seizure time is the time I hit the green button till that call is routed through. Sometimes it takes a while, and then the ring on the other side, and then the voice conversation altogether. So the total time from when the device associated with Mr. McMullen hit the button until that call was terminated, Verizon tracked that whole time as 47 seconds. Thank you, sir. T-Mobile, on the other hand, only keeps their records for the time you talk. And so that was 17 seconds. So on Mr. Williams' phone, it showed he picked up the phone and talked for 17 seconds before that device was terminated. So the difference of approximately 30 seconds, again, is the phone routing to the destination, the ring time must have been a combination of 30 seconds.
You said Mr. Williams picked up the phone, just to be fair.
Yeah, the device associated with Mr. Williams, whoever had the device at the time, whenever that was connected.
Now, could it also be where, using those two people, Mr. McMullins hits the send or the call button, and then Mr. Williams' cell phone records show that it's 17 seconds actually connected to Mr. Williams' associated phone?
Correct.
Okay. Could it be also that Mr. McMullen, whatever, he dropped, I'm making this up, he or whoever had that phone drops the phone, forgot to hit end call? Could it be that as well? And that's where you have the additional time. And if you don't know, just say, I'm not sure.
So both calls, the call is terminated at both ends. So whenever one person hangs up, the call is terminated on both sides, be it T-Mobile or Verizon. So Verizon wouldn't keep their side of the call open if T-Mobile had terminated the call on their side.
All right. Now, you were asked about whether the phone associated with Mr. Jeffrey Williams, it had what I'll call dark. Between 7:00 and we have to check me, 7:04 and 7:29. Please check it.
Yeah, I'm finding that here in my...
And for the jurors, because they're going to have this in their notes, can you just say what you're looking at and what page of the report?
Absolutely. All right, so I'm again referencing States Exhibit 532 Yankee and looking at specifically page 27.
Okay. Would you mind showing that on the screen? Your Honor, it's in evidence. Is that okay to put it on the screen? I'm not, if you need to, you don't have to, but if you need to stand up and point to things, just ask this honorable court if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
While that's being pulled up, so the actual, from what you know, by doing your work, the actual time, that 47-second Demise McMullen record from Verizon versus 17-second T-Mobile record from his phone associated or the records associated with Mr. Williams, you fell out that it may be a 17-second
The total voice
connection.
call?
Yes.
Yeah, it's 17 seconds. Yes, sir.
Do you know why it was written on one of your first exhibits, which is behind you, 47 seconds?
Yeah, again, that time came, I take the call at the time from the calling party when I just did the toll analysis. So again, that came from the McMullen phone, which placed the phone call.
Okay, but the jurors need to know, as far as you're concerned, it's a 17-second, not 47-second communication.
Yeah, the voice time of that call is 17 seconds.
All right, thank you. All right, I believe, is this the document that you just referred to, sir?
It is.
All right, and this would be then, Your Honor, we're showing State's Exhibit number...
532 Yankee.
Thank you, and it's on page 27. Is that what you asked
Yes,
for?
sir.
All right. Now, there's a gap, and I think I said 7:04, but it's 7:03:39. Is that fair to say?
7:03:39 incoming, and then the call is at 7:29 and 30 seconds.
Okay. Now, do you have any, you see the CS on here, or crime scene in the red in the kind of center lower part of what's on the screen for the jurors, the same exhibit number, same page we just announced?
I do.
Do you have any evidence to show the jurors that the handset according to the records associated with Mr. Williams, was anywhere in the vicinity of that crime scene where Mr. Donovan Thomas was, God forbid, shot during the time of 7:03 and 7:29?
I do not.
Okay. Now, the prosecution asked you, well, I'm going by my memory, but if I said it wrong, just please correct me.
Yes, sir.
WhatsApp, FaceTime, those are not captured by these type of records. You remember that question like that?
That's correct.
All right. And do you have any evidence that FaceTime, WhatsApp, or any other application was being used by that handset during this break in time?
I do not. We can't tell based on the records we received from T-Mobile in 2015 whether any of those devices were used.
All right. Now, I'd like to talk with you about, and I believe it's going to be on the next page, but you handle it. You tell us. From the 7:29 call that is already a book for the jurors, and then there should be the next series of calls or connections with Mr. Williams' targeted phone or the phone associated with Mr. Jeffrey Williams, where it is by the number 2. You know what I'm talking about, location
I do,
2?
yes, sir.
Can
That's
you,
7:33
Can
and
we
14
turn-
seconds. And that's
All right.
on page 28 of that same exhibit, 532 Yankee.
Your Honor, is it okay to turn to that?
Yeah.
I believe before you is exactly what you just said, the same exhibit, page 28. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, I'd like to talk with you about the 7:33:14 outgoing call from the records of Mr. that we're calling associated with Mr. Jeffrey Williams to the Kelvin Treadwell. You see that? What I'm
I
talking
do.
about? Okay. Now, the call before is the 7:31 call, but it's not on the same diagram. Is that accurate?
That's correct. It was on the previous page, page 27.
All right. I'd like to ask you some questions, and we may have to flip between the two exhibits if that's okay,
Yes, sir.
or the two document pages in the same exhibit. Now, the time of the 7:31 call, how many seconds was it?
7:31 and 17 seconds.
So we are just 3 seconds shy of the next recording on these records associated with Mr. Williams because it's 7:33:14, correct? There's a 2-minute minus 3 second difference. Does that sound right? All right. Now you said, and if I misheard you, just please, I was sitting over here, just please say that you didn't say that. But you explained that there's 4 miles between where the cell tower that was used at the 7:31 17 p.m. call to the 7:33:14 call, which is on the screen. Is that?
Yeah, I think I said between 8, or I measured it with just general measurement. I think I found like 8 or 9 kilometers, which again I estimated to be between 4 and 5 miles.
Did you drive the distance from around the cell tower that's on the page before at 7:31:17 to the cell tower at 7:33:14?
I have not, no.
Did you Google map it? And if that's, you use other devices, that's fine. But to see the number of miles between those two locations?
No, I just did an estimate, straight line distance estimate between those two towers.
When you say straight line, like a bird may be able to fly over
Yes,
all
sir.
the buildings? Okay.
Yeah, straight line from one to the other, not going along the roads.
Do you know the distance going along the roads between those two locations, and specifically point 2 associated address 35 Oak Street Southwest, and I used Jeffrey Williams condominium address?
I do not. I've never put them in Google Earth to see, or whatever mapping software to see the distance, driving distance. I don't know what it is.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about the sectors. You see on State's exhibit that is shown, page 28, do you see the sector pointing south? Is that
I do.
beta? Is that what it would be called? And if it's not, just...
Yeah, they've kind of gone away from those terms. It's more like 1, 2, 3, or whatever. But yes, it's the south side sector.
Does that mean, if the records are correct and if it's working accurately, that the handset of Jeffrey Williams by 7:33:14 is beyond where that cell tower is? Is that accurate? Meaning, when I say beyond, it's further south from the cell tower that it used.
Yeah, it's probably slightly further south than the tower. Again, I think we have it on the map. You're on a map point? Okay. So again, yeah, there's that tower we're referencing here. Again, the sector, the general left and right boundaries are these. So again, that device would have to be somewhere in this general area, here, or down in this part at 7:33.
And if you just stand there 1 second, if we go
Yep.
back one page, I believe that would be correct, and that should be page 27. Can you just show the jurors at 7:31:17 which tower is being employed?
Yes. So we got this tower up here, and again, the south side of that tower. So down here.
Now, all those green circles, that signifies other towers along the way that's in the system of T-Mobile. Is that true?
Correct. In 2015, January of 2015.
So, and then if you could go to page 28, if you don't mind, sir. So, the connection 2 minutes later, well, whatever, a minute and 57 seconds later, does not use any of the other towers. Is that true?
That's correct.
All right. Okay, thank you. Now, these towers are not done for law enforcement, meaning the records, rather. They're not kept for law enforcement purposes. Law enforcement uses them and accesses them, but they're really for the internal workings of the companies trying to make the money and give the best service.
That's correct. Yeah, these are business records used by the providers on a daily basis.
Did you analyze, I know that there's an incoming call, according to these records, 17 seconds, the way you explained it, not the 47, but you explained the difference, with Mr. McMullen's device associated with him to Mr. Jeffrey Williams' device associated with him. How many times in all these records that you have did Jeffrey Williams' device ever communicate, being the initiation of a communication with Mr. Demise McMullen's device?
I'd have to reference the call logs. I don't recall off the top of my head.
Will that take a long time or no?
I could probably, if they're all back there, I could probably review them in, 2 minutes or 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, let me give you a couple, and then maybe it saves time if you're going to review them.
Number, if there were some.
I can show you what I have.
No, don't do that yet. Just,
I can see it. I've reviewed.
did you review all of
I
those
reviewed the
things?
calls.
Okay.
I can tally up. If you give me like just 1 minute, I'll tally them up just in case. I reviewed all the calls, man.
All right. Okay. And then will you have redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And then you'll have your next witness ready.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Your Honor. I'm sorry. I left out just 1 or 2 questions, less than a minute, if I could just do that.
Come on.
Thank you.
Your Honor, just
Yes.
so the agent is fair to him, can you also, I think I asked this, but just say who called, who initiated it?
Well, your question was, did Mr. Williams' cell phone ever initiate any calls to any of those? So,
I just wanted to make sure.
Mr. Steele? Yes, sir. I want to refuse.
thank you, Mr. Weinstein. Turns out you had a couple more questions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you for the court's indulgence.
Go ahead.
Agent Bernie, I'm sorry. I think my eagerness for recess overcame my need to ask you 2 more questions.
Problem, sir.
My first question is, we're talking about drive tests. You were not asked to do a drive test in 2016, correct?
I was not involved in the case until, again, at the earliest 2022, I think.
And you haven't seen any drive tests that may have been performed back at that time, correct?
I do not. No.
Okay. Also, you were not asked to consider any cell phone records of my client Diamante Kendrick, correct?
Not during this time period, no.
Let me clarify to make sure we're clear. For in that January 10, January 11 time frame of 2015, you were not asked to consider any of the cell phone records.
I did not. No.
Thank you. No more questions.
All right, and now Mr. Steele.
Agent, I asked you some questions. Were you given enough time to review your notes?
I was.
Or the records, I guess. Okay, and tell us what you did, if you don't mind. Tell the jurors.
Yep. So what I did was review the cell phone records, the toll analysis, who called who at what date and what time, that I had already prepared from 7:29 on the 10th to 6:30 a.m. on the 11th.
And to be fair, and you weren't asked to do it, but to be fair, the records, let's say, for Mr. Jeffrey Williams really go from January 4th, 2015 to January 15th, 2015. Is that fair to say?
It is.
All right. But for purposes of timing, just today, and you're going to come back, can you answer the question, and we'll just go in person order, if that's okay, and you could designate the order if it's easier. Did Mr. Williams contact Mr. Copeland? When I say Mr. Williams, let me change it. Did Mr. Williams, according to the records, did the phone associated with Mr. Williams initiate the contact with Mr. Copeland's phone that's associated with him?
Initiate contact. So you're only asking about, did the device associated with Mr. Williams, 3904, initiate or place an outgoing call to any of these names you're
Or a text message.
Okay. Well, we would only have calls in this case, I believe, and there were no outgoing calls from the 3904 to Mr. Copeland's 5991.
And just, if you have it done already, it would be great. Does Mr. Copeland's cell phone records associated with him, does that ever call Mr. Jeffrey Williams during this time period that you have?
Yeah, so again, the time period of 7:29 on the 10th to 6:30 a.m. on the 11th, there's no contact between those two devices at all.
What's the next one if we want to go in your order? Otherwise, I'll give you the name.
I have the device associated with Mr. Treadwell.
And that's Kelvin Treadwell, fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And did you know him to be working for Mr. Williams at that time?
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of foundation.
Well, he can say, I have no idea. Overruled.
Again, I just was provided the phone numbers and who was associated with those numbers. So I have no idea whether they worked for each other or what.
Okay. Mr. Treadwell and Mr. Williams, you could give them, but clearly we saw in your charts that there is communication between those two devices according to the records. Fair to say?
There is. There's 10.
Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, so there's 10 calls between those two, and there's calls that go both ways, initiated by the 3904 device associated with Mr. Williams, and calls that are initiated by Mr. Treadwell to the 3904.
Okay.
So during that time period, 10 calls.
Next name, if you don't mind.
I have a device associated with McMullen.
Okay, Mr. Demise McMullen. And just go, same way in order, both ways. First, Mr. Williams initiating communication according to the records, Mr. Williams, number associated with Mr. Williams, and then initiating it to the number associated with Mr. McMullen.
So there's only 2 contacts, again, during this time period, 7:29 on the 10th to 6:30 a.m. on the 11th. Only 2 contacts. Both of those contacts were the device associated with Mr. McMullen calling the device associated with Mr. Williams, the 3904.
So Mr. Williams, according to the records, the phone associated with Mr. Williams never initiated contact with the phone associated with Mr. McMullen, according to records.
That's correct.
All right, next name, if you don't mind.
Is the device associated to Dora Greer?
Okay, do you know that? And if you don't know it, just say, I don't know it. Do you know that to be Jeffrey Williams' sister?
I do not know that.
Okay, that's fine. There are communications that you showed us already, fair to say?
There are 4 communications.
All right. If you need to give more detail, I'm not trying to cut you off, but I was going to go to the next phone, but
Yeah, there's four communications, and it looks like all those communications were initiated by the 3904 calling the 9596 associated with Dora Greer.
okay. Next name, if you don't mind.
Is Dolly Greer, the device associated to Dolly Greer.
Do you know that individual to be the sister of Mr. Jeffrey Williams? If you don't, just say, I don't know.
I do not know that.
Okay. Go ahead with those contact, fair to say?
Yep, and it's one contact, and that is the device associated with Dolly Greer, the 1990 device, calling the device associated with Mr. Williams, the 3904.
Okay. Next one.
Those are the only individuals that contact or are contacted by the 3904 number during the time period of 7/29 on the 10th to 6:30 a.m. on the 11th.
And that includes your search for that limited time period, Mr. Cobb.
It does.
And when I say Mr. Cobb, the device associated with Mr. Cobb or the records associated with Mr. Cobb. Correct?
It does.
Mr. Zachary
Correct.
and Mr. Treadwell.
Correct. All the known devices, those are the only ones.
Okay. I want to thank you for doing that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Sure. Mr. Atkins.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Agent Burney, do you recall being asked a number of questions about if the district attorney's office ever asked you to plot X or check Y on cross-examination?
Yes.
If any defense counsel had asked you before testifying here today to look into or plot any of those matters they addressed, would you have looked into it before testifying today?
I would have, yes.
Now, Agent Burney, with the phone toll analysis that you did, if records did not, or let me ask you this, what was the time frame again, or the time window of that toll analysis that you conducted?
Yeah, so it's on the 10th from 7:29 p.m. until the 11th at 6:30 a.m.
And in the investigations you work, do you typically analyze 12 to 10 phone numbers like you did in this case?
No, this is one of the larger number of phones for a specific case.
So with toll analysis with these numbers for times or dates other than the January 10th, 2015 murder of Donovan Thomas, would you be familiar or have looked through the entirety of records on dates you were not requested to?
No.
And Agent Burney, do you recall on cross-examination you were asked a number of questions about factors that go into cell towers and location?
By the phone, yes.
And things such as terrain and wave frequency, things of that nature. Do you recall that on cross?
I do.
Now, how long has the Federal Bureau of Investigation used call detail records in investigations?
Oh, CAS started up in 2009 because, we started using them. So 16, 15 years.
And since that was started from the FBI in 2009, would any of those factors related to physics or weather or terrain, would those have applied in 2009 just as they do in 2024 or not?
They would.
And have you either directly or as part of an investigation physically located someone based off call detail records in a non-criminal case?
Overruled.
In a non-criminal case?
Such as a natural disaster, something like that.
I have.
And did you, in those cases, rely on call detail records like the nature you used for the murder of Donovan Thomas on January 10, 2015?
I have, yes. And the most recent being the Bureau just used.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Your Honor, the state feels given some of the cross-examination, it is relevant. Questioning the science behind it.
Sustained.
Agent Burney, are historical cell site tower analysis reliable?
They are?
Overruled.
Agent Burney, can you explain to the jury how you're able to state that historical cell site analysis to include tower information is a reliable method to use?
Yeah, we.
Objection vague.
Overruled.
You may answer, Agent Burney.
Yeah, again, these records, you got to remember they're business records associated with the company. So they use them every day to optimize their network, right? Where they're dropped calls, where are lots of people placing calls, do I need to use more towers? But as far as law enforcement's use, we use them every single day to locate kidnapped kids, missing kids, runaways, both in the criminal context and the non-criminal context. The last time that we used it the last time I used them in a non-criminal context was the hurricane relief through North.
Bolstering.
What was the other one?
Bolstering.
Overruled and sustained.
Agent Burney, on cross-examination, do you recall being asked about the cell tower location of the device associated with Kenneth Copeland?
I was.
I'm going to publish States Exhibit 332 Yankee, page 10. If you have that before you, Agent Burney, it's going to come up on the screen. Now, Agent Burney, do you recall being asked on cross-examination about a gap in time in Mr. Copeland's records?
I do.
And do you recall being asked if the phone was on or off?
I do.
Do you recall being asked? And for the record, I meant 532 Yankee, Your Honor. I may have accidentally said 332, but I meant 532 Yankee. Do you also recall being asked about when the phone is off, if it was in airplane mode?
I do recall that question.
And what is the gap of time as depicted in page 10 between the 7:01 p.m. call and the 7:24:09 call?
Approximately 23 minutes, 22 minutes and some change.
Now, Agent Burney, I am going to go to slide 27. Do you see a gap in time in the phone associated with Defendant Williams between 7:03 and 7:29 p.m.?
I do.
Is that gap shorter, the same, or longer than the gap in time in the phone associated with Copeland's records we just discussed?
Maybe a minute or two longer, 24 minutes, maybe.
And would the same questions posed to you apply in terms of, are you able to say if the phone was on or off for the phone associated with Defendant Williams in this time with the call detail records?
Again, you cannot. It's just based on activity on the network. And so we can only see when there's towers and sectors used, where the device is.
And Agent Burney, do you recall a conversation about the duration or length of the call at 7:29 p.m.?
I do.
With the toll analysis that you created in the Excel spreadsheet, did you make that document?
I did.
And for the calls on that toll analysis, did you, for each of the calls on there, calculate the duration depicted the same for the calls you looked at? As in, would how you calculated the duration on that call be any different than how you would calculate the duration on any of the other calls on those boards or the Excel spreadsheet you created?
No, they're the same. Again, I review the records based on the caller, and put that in as the duration.
And Agent Burney, do you recall on cross-examination the question was asked about if the phone had fallen and hung up accidentally or something of that nature?
I do.
After this call, when is the device associated with Defendant Williams show movement? As in, how many minutes after this call is there a separate tower from this device after this incoming call from the phone associated with Demise McMullen?
So the next activity where we can definitely see that there was movement was at 7:33, so approximately 4 minutes later.
And Agent Burney, you were asked on cross-examination about toll analysis or who was contacting who. Do you recall?
I do.
Now, Agent Burney, I am going to publish what has been already admitted as State's Exhibit your State's Exhibit one brief moment, Your Honor. The toll analysis you conducted in this case. As State's Exhibit 533, Yankee. It will come up on the screen, Agent Burney. Now, when was, in this toll analysis you conducted, when is the first call that the phone number associated with Mr. Copeland interacted with any of these 12 numbers you looked at?
I'd have to scroll down. I don't recall. It's not right away for sure.
Is the device associated with Mr. Copeland end in 5991?
Does. Yes, it does. There it is right there. So the first time it shows in the toll analysis, again, of known numbers, calling known numbers, is at 8:22 p.m. So it shows in here as 2022, which again is 8:22 p.m.
How long after the 911 call is this 8:22 p.m. call?
Approximately an hour.
And Agent Burney, I'm going to Control F 5991. Do you see this on the screen?
I do.
And I want you to let me know each time the phone associated with Kenneth Copeland speaks with someone new, either outgoing or incoming. Are you following?
I am.
The first time this appears, what device associated with a person's name that you analyzed does Defendant Copeland's phone interact with?
8935 is the device associated with Mr. Sledge.
I'm going to keep going, and when you see another number, just let me know.
Okay, the 5726 is the one associated with Mr. Zachary. Then the 8935 again. Then the 5726 again. 5726. 5726. 5726. Again, 5726. Again, the 8935. 8935. Again, 8935. Again, the 8935. 5726. Again, Zachary. 5726. 5726, Zachary. Zachary again. Zachary again. Zachary. And then Zachary again.
So does the device associated with Kenneth Copeland speak with anyone else in this toll analysis other than the phone associated with Mr. Zachary or Mr. Sledge?
No, those are the only two devices.
And do you recall being asked on cross-examination if Mr. Copeland had, or if you had ever been requested to analyze another phone?
I do.
Now, Agent Burney, do you recall on direct examination being asked about a phone number that ended in 7604? I'm going to show you something, Agent Burney. I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 532 Yankee. And Agent Burney, do you recall me asking you about contact with Mr. Copeland's phone in relation to 4090 and 7604?
I do.
Now, does the phone associated with Kenneth Copeland at 5991 communicate with the 7604 or have calls either incoming or outgoing?
Several. You can see them listed both on this side and this side, both incoming and outgoing.
And without counting them up, I'm going to publish slide 11 as well and ask you if that number appears, or my apologies, let me go back. And then I'm going to publish slide 12. Do you see that 7604 on this slide?
I do. You can see it right here, 7604 incoming calls.
And is there more than one?
There's two of them.
Now,
Or three of them, my apologies.
Agent Burney, I'm going to show you what's already been admitted as 518 Yankee Alpha. Let me know when you can see this, Agent Burney.
I have it up.
And what is the last four? Is this the same phone number you see that is associated with, or that I've been asked you about on the records in Mr. Copeland's phone?
It is.
And what is the account name associated with that phone?
Trez Brock.
If you were to try to determine if someone had a physical device on them, would you look at frequently called numbers in the time frame that you were analyzing?
That is a way you could do it, yes.
And would, if you knew associated relatives or friends that a phone you were trying to place a device to a specific person were calling, would that be relevant for you if you were ever asked to do that?
It would be.
Now, Agent Burney, on cross-examination, or let me ask you this too, with the slides we just depicted, does the phone associated with Mr. Copeland, does it have a small, average, or high amount of phone calls in those slides that you analyzed?
That's subjective. Is that what you said?
I'll ask another question.
Sustained.
Agent Burney, with the three slides you plotted, pages 10, 11, and 12, related to Copeland, do you have those before you?
I do.
Does the phone associated with Mr. Copeland, does it between those three slides have either incoming or outgoing calls from similar numbers, as in the same numbers?
It does.
And is there one call? Is there two calls? Is there 10 calls? On average, between those three slides, how much calls, either incoming or outgoing, ballpark, is there from the device associated with Mr. Copeland?
There's several, maybe around 10. The second slide has maybe 8. The third slide probably has 10. And the fourth slide has probably close to 20.
Does it appear from that, what you just articulated, that that phone is being utilized in that window of time plotted on those 3 calls?
Yeah, there's a series of both incoming and outgoing activities.
Now, do you recall also on cross-examination being asked about if Mr. Copeland's phone was hit near the crime scene?
Correct.
And do you recall discussing a call at 7:28 p.m. in his records?
I do.
Was that 7:28 p.m. before or after the 7:22 911 call of the murder of Donovan Thomas?
It's after.
And Agent Burney, do you also, or let me ask you this, as a FBI cast agent, when you review cases, you've been asked a lot of questions about hypotheticals. Do you recall that on cross?
I have.
Is it difficult for you to speak in absolute terms when reviewing call detail records?
Yes.
So if someone asks you a question, if a hypothesis is feasible or possible, how do you answer that question with your training and experience?
Yeah, obviously I take what they asked and obviously look at all the pieces we have, pieces of evidence or information that we have in order to formulate my opinion to answer the question. So, based on time, locations, distances, all of those things, I take all of those things into account when formulating my opinion in response.
Now, Agent Burney, I am publishing 532 Yankee, page 10. Do you see the slide, Agent Burney?
I do.
And do you recall being asked if it is feasible for the device associated with Copeland to be at the crime scene at 7:22 p.m.?
I do.
Is what, in your training and experience of reviewing historical cell site analysis, where is the device associated with Kenneth Copeland with the towers and plots on this screen likely to be?
Objection, that calls for speculation.
Overruled.
And please use the wooden pointer if you need to, Agent Burney.
Yeah, so again, based on all of the information we have, which again is call it 701 in this general area. The device has been in this general area prior to that. This general area, again, is this area around the QR location here. And then the tower in sector used at 724 here. Again, if asked, I would again assume that the device was probably in this general area here around the time of 722.
And is that time you just pointed out separate and apart from the crime scene at 330 McDaniel Street?
Say that again?
Is the location you just pointed out, 178 Maury Avenue Southeast, is that not the crime scene at 330 McDaniel Street?
Correct. That's a separate location up here we see on the map.
And Agent Burney, do you also recall being asked about, on cross-examination, towers and if they can be miles apart or ranges of towers?
I do.
And in a city like Atlanta, are towers miles apart like you mentioned they may be in Nebraska or something different?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, depending upon the provider and how they want to utilize towers, sometimes they're really close, several towers within a mile downtown. And then sometimes they might be, a mile to 3 miles apart in different parts.
One brief moment, Your Honor. Agent Bernie, I am going to publish the toll analysis spreadsheet we were just discussing. That is State's Exhibit 533, Yankee. Do you recall there was discussion about the 2920 number and the last name Williams?
I do.
Do you see that 2920 number on the toll analysis you were requested to conduct on this case?
I do.
And who is the name associated with that?
It's Brian Williams.
Thank you, Agent Birdie. No further redirect from the state.
Ray Cross.
Agent, when there is somebody missing and you assist successfully in locating them from phone records, is that true?
Yes, sir.
How old are those phone records that you're using?
Yeah, most of the time, we get phone records as soon as we can. So, obviously we're looking for individuals. If they go missing today, we're getting the records today or tomorrow.
Okay. Not 8 years later. Is that fair to say?
Again, when we work Amber Alerts and missing kids, no, but we do work cold cases where we assist in locating pieces of evidence using old records, unfortunately.
Now, today's records, cell phone companies changed. I don't know if it's mandated, you tell the jurors, but now they give a distance from the cell tower where the device made a connection to the tower. Is that true?
So there's different records. So the CDRs are the same. The call detail records have, who called who, what date and time, and then the tower and the sector used. Those are still all the same for the CDRs. There are now new additional records called timing advance records. And those are records from the phone checking in with the network. And those include the tower, the sector, side of the tower, and a distance that device is away. The difference is call detail records kept for a long period of time, the shortest being Verizon at 365 days. Timing advance kept for a much shorter time because there's just so much data. Verizon, the shortest, keeps it for 7 days.
And when you say 7 days, does that mean today is the 14th day of October 2024? Verizon keeps today's records until next Monday, the 21st day of October 2024. Fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And then tomorrow, today's records would fall off, and then it would be kept from the 15th, Tuesday the 15th of October, until Tuesday the 22nd of October. Is that how it works?
Yes, sir. It's a rolling calendar, just like you explained.
Okay. Is that similar to, if you've done this work, surveillance cameras?
I have.
Is that similar?
It is, depending upon the settings on your surveillance cameras of, hey, this camera keeps 30 days or 60 days or 14 days. Yes.
And then as the 14th day comes up, then the first day's gone, and then it goes from originally day 2 to day 15, and then day 2 is gone, then day 3 to 16.
Correct.
All right. Now, let me ask you this. You wrote, and it's on 520, that's wrong, 532Y, it's in evidence, page 10, I believe, and page 11, if you don't mind showing that, sir.
Yes, sir.
Do you see on the left-hand side on page 10 of that exhibit, the fourth number down, it ends in 0102. Do you see that?
I do.
And then on page 11, same exhibit, in the center left, again, 0102. You see that?
I do.
And that is, again, Mr. Copeland's records, correct?
These are.
And Mr. Copeland's records show that the device associated with Mr. Copeland contacted that number 0102, correct?
Yeah, one's an outgoing call on page 10, and the other is an incoming call on page 11.
And the first one is approximately 6 minutes after the 911 called 7:22. This is 7:28:45. Is that true?
It's at 7:28, so yeah, 6 minutes.
All right. And were you told through the district attorney's office who the 01, it says NA, which means not applicable, I assume. Is that what you write, NA?
That's correct. I don't know whose number that is.
Were you told of Naisha Williams? Does that sound familiar?
I don't know whose number that is.
All right. Were you ever given that number associated with Demeke and Garlington? Did the DA's office ever tell you that?
I don't recall.
All right. Now, just using this as an example, and what's shown is the same exhibit number, page 11. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Do you mind if I approach? Mm-hmm. I use the pointer. Thank you, sir. Just tell me if this is. I'm not saying today's records. I'm not using today's record. But in 2015 January, if a call was, this would be the cell tower where the big circle is, correct?
The dot is, yes, sir.
Or the dot. And then you just were kind enough to give us an estimate of the sector.
Correct.
In that area. And that call, the handset, the cell phone as we all call it, that could be, according to these records, it could be right here, almost the person touching that cell tower potentially, correct?
Yes, sir, good.
It could also be out a mile or more from that cell tower. Fair to say?
It could. Depends on, again, the phone's going to pick the tower with the best signal. And as it gets closer to other towers, that signal may change. So if it's closer to another dot, which is a tower, it may use that one.
Okay. But generally, all you're doing, and I shouldn't say all, you're doing great to assistance to everybody. But you're just telling me, you want to make it clear to the jurors, if it's using this cell sector and this cell tower, ladies and gentlemen, it could be anywhere within the range that goes out. But that's the best or strongest signal to that handset at that time.
Correct. And again, I'm testifying to a general area.
I just want to make that clear. Thank you. Your Honor, I have no other questions.
All right. Anybody else with recross questions? No. Okay. All right. Special Agent Burney, thank you for your time. It sounds like we may see you again, but for now you are excused. Call your next witness.
You're going to just have to take those off for Pete.
All right.
I do.
State your first last name.
Brian Peek, BRYANPEEK.
Good afternoon, Officer Pete.
Good afternoon.
Where do you work?
Atlanta Police Department, General Crimes Unit,
And how long have you worked for APD?
14 years.
In 2015, what unit were you assigned to?
2015, I was Zone 5 Field Investigations Team.
Now, I want to turn your attention to around midnight, January 8, 2015. Were you working an extra job at an apartment complex on Confederate Court?
Yes.
All right. And what was the name of that complex?
Trestle Tree.
And is that located in Fulton County?
Yes.
And what was your job as security?
We were there working extra job to address any security issues that may arise there during the hours we were there, and any security concerns and answering 911 calls that may come up.
Now, you said we. Were you alone or were you with a partner?
I was with a partner.
Can you describe the complex for the jury?
The complex is fairly older buildings. There's one way in, one way out. You come in from at the time known as Confederate Avenue. You approach the gates, you go in the gates. You go in through the driveway. Once you go through several buildings, you get to the rear of the apartment complex. There's a roundabout or cul-de-sac that you have to go around to go back out following the same path you just used to get in the first place.
Yeah, and I may have already asked you, so forgive me. Were you in a marked or unmarked car?
Unmarked.
And were you in uniform?
Yes.
Now, geographically, where was your car positioned within the complex?
We were in the center of the complex near the leasing office.
Was that near the entrance area of the apartment complex?
Somewhat close to the entrance, yes.
Now, at some point in time, do you hear gunshots?
Yes.
About how many?
About 5 to 6.
How far apart in time were the shots?
They were pretty rapid succession following each other.
And what area of the complex did you hear the shots come from?
They came from the gate area.
When you say gate area, can you elaborate?
Near the Confederate Avenue main entrance gate where you come into the apartments.
So after you hear the gunshots, what happens?
We see a red Infiniti speeding down the main driveway.
And where does it go from there?
It stops almost in front of us, in front of, I believe, unit 895. Building 895, I'm sorry.
And what happens next?
2 persons exit the vehicle and run into their unit.
Did they ever come out of the unit?
They did come back out.
And who were the occupants?
The occupants were, if I can refer to the report so I can get the names. Okay. The occupants were, the front driver was Miss Erica Greer, and the front passenger was Larry Hughes.
Now, were either of them injured?
No.
Without telling me what they told you, did they tell you what happened?
They did tell me.
Now, did you canvass the area?
Yes, we did.
And what area did you canvass?
The area where the gunshots came from near the main gate in Confederate Avenue.
Now, while canvassing the area, what did you find?
We found about 6 shell casings on the ground near the gate where the shots came from.
Where were they located?
Near the front gate.
Did you observe any property damage to the red Infiniti owned by Stacey Adams?
Yes.
Now, you currently have in your possession what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 1 Delta Hotel through 13 Delta Hotel.
Okay.
Do you recognize those photos?
Yes, I do recognize these.
And you had an opportunity to review those before coming to court?
Yes.
All right. Has there been any alterations to those photos since you last viewed?
No.
Are they a fair and accurate representation? Fair and accurate depiction of the scene that night?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I move to admit, State moves to admit 1 Delta Hotel through 13 Delta Hotel.
Those are admitted.
I'm now going to publish 3 through 8 Delta Hotel. I'm now going to publish 4 Delta Hotel. 5 Delta. 6, 7, and 8. Investigator Pete, are those the shell cases that you located?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And what did you do with them?
Crime scene tech collected them.
Did you take any prints?
No.
Any ballistic tests?
No.
I am am now going to publish 12 Delta Hotel. Officer P, can you tell the jury what is depicted in 12 Delta?
This is the red Infinity that was damaged by gunfire with the defect in the lift gate.
And 13? Please tell the jury what is depicted in this.
Closer image of the same Infinity lift gate with the round defect in the center.
Officer Pete, did you prepare a report in this case?
Yes, I did.
And when did this incident occur?
It occurred around 12:30 on January 8th, 2015.
All right, and when did you prepare your report?
The report was prepared on January 10th of 2015.
Why on the 10th?
I believe that was my first day back to work where I could get to the report system to complete it.
Question done for a brief moment, Your Honor. No additional questions?
All right, does any of the defense have questions for this witness?
Yes, please.
All right, go ahead.
Officer Pete, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
All right. I've got just a couple questions for you, if you don't mind, about what you observed on that evening, actually morning, because it was about a little bit after 12 midnight when this incident occurred. Is that about right?
Correct.
So we're talking January the 8th of 2015, about 12:38 in the morning. Does that sound about correct?
Correct.
And if you need to, for purposes of time or anything else, refer to your report that you have in front of you, right?
Sure, yes.
Feel free to do so. All right. So you're with APD, but you're working an extra job at this location, all right?
Yes.
And 12:38 in the morning, you hear some shots. Turns out to be about maybe 4 or 5 shots that you hear.
About 5 or 6, but yes.
5 or 6. You're a police officer. You know what gunshots sound like.
Yes.
All right. And then you see this burgundy reddish Infinity that we've seen the pictures of come speeding down the driveway or the street inside of the complex. 2 folks get out.
Yes.
Erica Greer, Larry Hughes.
Yes.
You don't know them,
No, I don't know him at the time.
but they go into a unit there in the apartment complex, and then they come back out.
Correct.
You have a conversation with them.
Correct.
All right. During the course of your investigation, you come to find out that that their car appeared to have been shot at. Right?
Correct.
In fact, you were able to look at the car and observe some damage to the vehicle itself.
Correct.
Later, or as you conduct the investigation, you come to realize that there's another vehicle, I think a black Acura, that has some damage to it as well. True?
Correct.
All right. One of the things you're trying to find out at that point is what happened, who shot at him, what was going on. Correct?
That's correct.
You would ultimately end up asking, well, first of all, did other officers arrive at the scene?
It was just myself, Officer McGee, and another officer just brought crime scene tape. That's all.
Okay. But you would have advised either those officers or other officers about anything to be on the lookout for, right?
Yes, I should have. Yes.
And one of the things that you wanted the other officers to look out for was a white or silver Dodge Charger, correct?
Yes, that's in the report.
All right. And it's in your report because you were aware, or you became aware during the course of your investigation, that a silver or white Dodge Charger was the vehicle that was firing on the burgundy Infinity, correct?
Presumably, yes.
You would not later or soon thereafter, go out to the front of the complex where you would see, and either you would collect or crime scene, the crime scene arrive on scene?
Yes.
All right. They would collect the 6 shell casings that you found near the front gate.
Correct.
You know what the caliber of those shell casings were?
According to the report, 45 caliber.
Okay. So you have some 45 caliber shell casings, and it seemed logical to you during your investigation that someone was shooting a 45 at that burgundy vehicle. True?
That's true.
And you had a description of an individual, a black male, who got out of the white Dodge Charger and was shooting at the vehicle, right?
According to the report, yes.
Okay, all right. Just one person.
Yes, that's all I can remember from reading.
Okay. So what you know and what you then communicate to other officers or investigators is that there's a shooting that occurred at Trestle Tree, right? That's one. The shooting appeared to have been someone shooting at this burgundy Infiniti, right?
Correct.
The person doing the shooting would have been a black male coming out of a white or silver Dodge Charger.
That's correct.
And then leaving the scene.
That's correct. They were
But
left.
leaving 45, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Leaving the scene.
Right.
And leaving some 45 caliber shell casings there at the location.
That would be correct.
All right. It is fair to say that that was well, you looked for cameras at the location to see if any of this was captured on surveillance cameras, didn't you?
I did.
There were 2 cameras located at the entrance, but they did not capture or they didn't face the location where the incident occurred. Am I correct about that?
Not sure about that. We didn't have leasing persons with access to the cameras to confirm that.
Okay. Bottom line is you didn't see any camera footage of the incident.
No, I didn't.
You're not aware of whether or not any subsequent officers or investigators procured camera footage of the incident.
No, I'm not.
All right. No one was arrested that night,
No.
but that information certainly was turned over to either other investigators or detectives, right?
As far as I know.
All right. Officer Peak, I think that's all I've got for you. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
Judge.
Judge.
Sure. Any other defense attorney questions for this witness? No, Your Honor. No? Okay. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you for your time. You are excused. Call your next witness.
Thank you.
Officer Jay Williams.
Say one more. Gotcha. Joshua Williams, JOSHUAWILLIAMS.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Can you tell jurors how you're currently employed, sir?
Say one more time, sir.
How are you currently employed?
I'm a police officer with the City of Atlanta Police Department.
Excuse me, Mr. Abate, would you use the microphone, please? Thank you.
And how long have you been employed by the City of Atlanta Police Department?
11 years and 4 months.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, I guess, where within the City of Atlanta Police Department are you assigned, or what unit are you assigned to?
Zone 3.
Okay. And were you working that same zone, Zone 3, back in 2015?
Yes, I was. Yes, sir.
And can you briefly tell the jurors where is Zone 3 contained within the bounds of City of Atlanta?
Generally, like most of Metropolitan Parkway, Jonesboro Road, McDaniel Street, University Avenue,
Okay.
Southwest Atlanta.
Okay. And have you always worked in Zone 3 since you've been employed?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you tell the jurors back on January 8th of 2015 were you dispatched to the area surrounding or near 675 Metropolitan Parkway?
Yes, sir, I was. I was dispatched to 565 Wells Street, Southwest initially.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, are both of those addresses here within the City of Atlanta, Fulton County?
Yes, they are. Yes, sir.
And how close is the Wells Street address that you were initially dispatched to and the 675 Metropolitan address that you went to eventually or second?
Less than 1 mile.
Okay. And when you arrived at the Wells Street address, can you tell the jurors what you observed or what you first encountered?
Yeah, so when I arrived on scene, I spoke with the security guard at the location. She advised that she heard.
Don't tell me what the security guard told you.
Okay,
but
sorry.
after speaking with the security guard, can you tell the jurors what you did next?
So after speaking with the security guard, one of my coworkers pulled over a vehicle on Metropolitan Parkway and advised the vehicle had been shot at, had damage to it. I went to that location and we related the calls at that point.
Okay. And I want to show you what's already been entered into evidence as State's Exhibit II-7, 10, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So II-7 and II-10 through 15.
Yes, sir.
This should be pulled up on the screen in front of you here in a second.
Okay.
Now, in State's Exhibit II-7, is that the vehicle that you went to? You said an officer that you worked with called over the radio?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and is that the vehicle that you encountered?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell the jurors, did you speak to the driver of the vehicle once you arrived to the blue truck contained in II-7 State's Exhibit?
Yes, sir, I did speak to him.
Okay. And do you remember his name?
Mr. Detorius Rivers.
Okay. And without telling me what he said, can you tell the jurors, had he actually physically been shot?
No, he had not been shot.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors in II-7 what area of the vehicle had been shot?
I know that the windows have been shot out, but I'm not sure about the other sides on the vehicle.
Okay. And when you, I guess in speaking with Mr. Rivers, can you tell the jurors where you went next as it relates to your investigation and after speaking with Mr. Rivers?
Yes, we went into 675 Metropolitan Parkway. It's like a large business park. There's a studio at the location. That's where we went next.
Okay. And it should be in the screen in front of you here in a second. I want to show you what's already been entered into evidence as II-18.
Yes, sir.
And while we're getting that up, can you describe to the jurors, you said it's I guess, what kind of location is 675?
It's like a large business park. There are different like businesses at the location, and also some people live there as well.
Okay. And then through your number of years in working in Zone 3, can you tell the jurors the businesses that you described, are there music studios contained within 675 Metropolitan?
Yes, there are.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, once you arrived to the business complex, what you kind of did first as it related to, I guess, your part of the investigation and securing the scene?
Yes, so we went to where the studio was located, and we found like shell cases on the ground belonging to a 762 shell casings.
Okay.
So.
And you said that belonged, or you said there were 762 shell
Yeah,
casings.
caliber. Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jurors, based on your number of years with the City of Atlanta Police Department, what kind of gun fires a 762?
Assault rifles.
Okay.
Yeah, AK-47, stuff of that nature.
Okay. And I want to show you what's already been entered into evidence as State's Exhibit II-46. And while we're pulling that up, can you tell the jurors, while you were on scene, did members of the City of Atlanta Police Department's kind of crime scene tech division show up?
Yes, they did. They showed up to process the scene, take photos, and collect the shell casings.
And were you present during the processing of the scene, whether it was photographing it and or collecting the 762 shell casings?
Yes, I was. Yes, sir.
And on the screen in front of you, State's Exhibit II-46, are those the 7 shell casings that you described and that were located at the Metropolitan
Yes, sir.
Shopping Center? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, the business center. And can you just describe for the jurors, I know it's not a great picture, can you kind of describe to the jurors where within the complex, that if we saw the front in State's Exhibit II-7, can you explain to the jurors kind of where in relation to that these 7 shell casings were located?
I'm trying to remember, but in relation to the picture you showed, I think it's to like the right side. So you would pass by those doors and go off to the right, and the studio's on the side of that building.
Okay. And would this be an area where cars or trucks would park while at the studio or some other business within the complex?
Yes, sir.
And when you were on scene and you located the shell casings, did you locate any other vehicles or individuals who had sustained gunshots?
So no one had been shot, but there was another vehicle at the location that had been shot, had damage to it.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, do you remember, was it a sedan? Was it a truck?
It was like a large purplish truck.
And in State's Exhibit II-24, can you tell the jurors, is this the large purple truck that you just described?
Yes.
And Do you remember, based on, I know it's been a number of years, where the vehicle has sustained gunshots?
Honestly, I do not remember.
Okay. And in the next photos, State's Exhibit II-28, it should be up on the screen here in a second.
Okay.
Does that refresh your recollection as to where the purple truck had been shot?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And while on scene, did you ever have an opportunity to speak with or find out who owned the purple truck?
No, I did not. The owner refused to come outside.
Now, a few days later, on January 11th of 2015, can you tell the jurors, were you dispatched to the area of 215 Hendricks Avenue?
Yes, it was. It was 213 Hendricks Avenue. That was the initial location.
Okay. And that address, is that here in the city of Atlanta, Fulton County?
Yes, it is.
And can you tell the jurors, is that address in the same zone that you've been describing, Zone 3?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And just to orient the jurors, can you tell them about how far is the Hendricks Avenue address or area in relation to what we were just talking about, the 675 Metropolitan Parkway area?
That's about 1.5 miles away.
Okay, so pretty close.
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you tell the jurors during this situation or circumstance you were dispatched, why were you dispatched to the Hendricks Avenue area?
So we received a call of shots fired at the location. Some advisor was shooting in the area. Okay. That's why we were initially called out there.
Okay. And in a second, we are going to pull up State's Exhibit. I believe it's 1DDD. Okay. So 1 Delta 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 A. And while we're pulling that up, can you explain to the jurors what kind of, area or location is this? Is this another business complex?
This is residential.
Okay. And in the screen in front of you, can you tell the jurors, which house was of interest to your investigation?
It's the house on the right.
Okay. So if you were to, can you turn around and point to on the screen? What house?
The house right here on the right side.
Okay. So the one furthest to the right?
Furthest to the right, yes, sir.
At the exhibit.
Yes, sir.
Now, can you tell the jurors when you did arrive, did you arrive alone or with other officers?
There was multiple officers out there and a supervisor.
And can you tell the jurors when you arrived at this location, did you begin to kind of canvass or look for individuals with guns or anything suspicious as it related to gunfire?
Yes, we did. We all canvassed the area, and initially we didn't find anything.
Okay. And when you were canvassing the area, did you also, were you able to locate any ballistics evidence in relation to the house that we see in State's Exhibit 1DDDA in the, top right-hand corner?
I don't remember if we located the shell cases before or after we found the house.
Okay. So, but to your recollection, did you locate ballistics evidence or
Yes.
shell casings?
Yes, we did.
On scene?
Yes, we did.
And do you recall how many?
At least 2.
Okay. And now, while on scene, were you able to interact to or speak with any residents of the house that we've been describing in 1DDDA or anybody who lived in the area?
Yes. So one of my coworkers, Officer Pena, he was stopped by 2 people that were inside of this home here, and they told him that the house had been shot at multiple times.
And while you were on scene, did members of the crime scene tech division within the Atlanta Police Department arrive to kind of photograph and process the scene like you described earlier?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And in this instance, at this, this residential area, this home, had anyone actually been physically shot?
No, no one.
And after the ballistics evidence was located by you and your fellow officers who responded, and then photographed and collected by City of Atlanta Crime Scene Texas, kind of complete your part of the investigation as related to this shooting.
Yes.
You got not heard anything further pending redirect.
All right, are there questions for this witness?
Yes,
Okay, go ahead.
Officer Williams, good afternoon, sir.
Hello, sir.
I have got some questions for you, mostly about the first thing that you testified about, the
Yes, sir.
the shooting of the music studio.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're going back now to January the 8th of 2015. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And it is about 11:14 p.m. at night when you respond to this location. First, you went to Wells Street.
Yes,
Is that right?
565 Wells Street.
Okay, so 565 Wells Street is where you go to, and you're going there to investigate a shots fired call.
Yes, sir.
All right. You get there, and you have a conversation with the security guard.
Yes.
You are conducting an investigation about these shots that have been fired.
Yes, sir.
Not you, but another officer pulls over a car that's driving down the street not far from that location.
Yes, sir.
The car is driving with no lights on, and that is why it's pulled over, as far as you know. True?
Yes, sir. True.
You go to that location.
Yes.
You interact with that individual,
Yes, sir.
and we've seen the photos that were put up a little while ago. So this person was in a vehicle that was I won't say the recipient of, but it received gunshots to the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
And you come to find out, because you're trying to find out where everything happened, that this vehicle that this guy was in that was shot up was actually in front of the music studio, right?
Yes, sir.
Which brings you back to the music studio.
Yes, sir.
So you go back there, and I want to ask you about everything that you observed when you got there. Now, you go to the music studio. It's at 675 Metropolitan Parkway.
Yes, sir.
It is a location that has numerous businesses, but specifically a music studio.
Yes, sir.
You worked in that area for some period of time. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. I have.
You know about the music studio,
Well, yes, I do.
and you know various artists, local artists, and so forth. Go to that music studio often.
I mean, yeah, I know now. Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Rich Homie Quan, you familiar with who that gentleman was?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Were you aware at the time that you were there that night that was a studio that he often recorded at?
I did not. I didn't know.
All right. What you came to find out, though, was that there were shell casings in front of that location, at the Metropolitan Parkway location.
Yes, sir.
It was obvious to you during your investigation as an officer, having seen things like this before, that someone had appeared to have been shooting at the music studio.
Yes, sir.
And apparently this gentleman in the pickup truck was either in the way or was just unlucky enough to have his car shot up while shots are being fired at this music studio.
That's possible. It's
Okay.
possible.
Assault rifle. There were assault rifle shell casings.
Yes, sir. 762.
All right. And you would, of course, have been looking for, to the extent that you could find out, who had been shooting at the studio.
Yes, sir.
Description of individuals, that sort of thing.
Yes, sir.
You were looking for what was described as a gray Honda sedan, isn't that right?
Yes, 2 males jumped inside of it and left the location.
2 males.
Yes.
All right. So at this point, you know, what you know and what you're trying to relay either to other officers or trying to find yourself are 2 males who were in a gray, what was described, what you believe to be a gray Honda sedan during the shooting at the music studio.
Yes, sir.
At any time then or any time thereafter, did any investigators ever discuss with you anyone who had been arrested or charged with that shooting?
No. No, sir.
Now, one of the things that you discovered, though, was that there was a purple vehicle, that purple truck, pickup truck, I guess it was.
Yes, sir.
That we saw. That vehicle has some bullet defects to it as well.
It did.
Were you able to determine, I know you said that the owner of the vehicle wouldn't come out of the studio to speak to you. But were you able to determine that that vehicle belonged to Mr. DeQuantes Lamar?
No, no, sir. Not at that time.
You don't know who it belonged to?
No, we didn't.
Okay. Did you receive or were you able to convey any sort of description of these two individuals in the gray Honda, gray what was thought to be a Honda vehicle?
No, it's not. Not from what I remember.
Just two guys.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have any further involvement with any investigation related to the shooting of that music studio?
After that, no, I did not.
Let me just ask you one or two questions about the January 11th, maybe more than two, questions about the January 11th incident that you investigated. That was the incident on Hendricks Avenue, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Shots fired?
Yes, sir.
You go to the location?
Yes, sir.
Don't really see much of anything at the location right away?
Yes, sir, we didn't.
But later on, you come to determine through your investigation that apparently there was a shooting that had taken place at that location.
Yes, at 197.
Okay. Were you able to, was there a Kenneth Copeland anywhere around that location on that night?
Not that I remember. It's been a while.
Were you able to determine whether or not Kenneth Copeland or any family members of Kenneth Copeland lived at that location?
Not that I remember, no.
Okay. Did that name even come up at that point?
I don't think so. It's been a while. I don't think so.
Okay. You did canvass the area, correct?
Yes, sir.
No one, to your knowledge, was ever arrested or charged with shooting at that house at any time thereafter?
No, sir.
Not that you're aware of?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, sir. Officer Williams, that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other defense questions? All right, come on up.
Okay, thank you. May it please court, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Officer Williams.
Good afternoon. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Max Shard. I represent Shannon Stillwell.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay with this mask?
Yes, sir. I
Go under the
can.
weather.
I
Okay.
can.
All right. As I understand, Officer, you were dispatched to the shooting at 11:14 p.m. on January 8th, 2015, correct?
No, shots fired call. Yes, sir.
Yes. Shots fired call.
Yes, sir.
You went to 565 Wells, and then from 565 Wells, did you go straight to the location where the other officer had that car pulled over?
Yes, sir, from what I remember.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so 675 Metropolitan, the location of the actual, the studio,
Yes, sir.
was the third location that you went to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know, again, we got this 11:14, I think, is the dispatch time. Do you
Yes.
know what time that you arrived at 675 Metropolitan?
I do not remember. No, sir.
From your recollection of that night, do you have a estimate of the time that passed, or the estimate of the time that you arrived at 675 Metropolitan?
I do not know. I mean, it didn't take long, but I'm not sure.
I'm sorry.
I said it did not take me long to get there, but I'm not sure.
Okay,
Of,
fair
like
enough.
the actual time period. You know, it's been a long time. So
Fair enough.
yeah.
Was there another law enforcement officer while you were going to first Wells and then to the location where the car was pulled over? Was there another APD officer at 675 controlling that scene, or were you the first one to arrive there as well?
I believe I was the first, but I believe I was the first one there.
Okay, so is it fair to say and I'm not putting the blame on you, but is it fair to say that an amount of time passed between the shooting and when you actually arrived at 675 Metropolitan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Hilton, could you do me a big favor and publish Indigo 18? Okay, sir, is that showing on your computer? Do you have the-
It is.
Okay,
It is.
great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. So this is, I see the signage, the Metropolitan. Is this picture what studio do you know that operates at 675 Metropolitan?
I didn't know of the name, but we found out it was a music studio like during the investigation.
Did you know it to be associated with TIG?
I did not. No, sir.
Okay. Do you know that at this point?
I do now.
Okay. Is this picture where it says the Metropolitan, this red building or orangish building, is that the actual studio or is the studio part of this?
No, that's not the actual studio. That's just the front of the building. The studio, I think, was on the right side of the building, like on the side.
Okay, so is it fair to say that this is kind of like an office park with several different businesses
Yes.
operating?
There are a ton of businesses. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Ms. Hilton, if you could do me another favor and publish Indigo 46. This is, officer, this is obviously, this is where you found shell casings, correct?
Yes, sir.
7 of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, is this on the grounds of the overall business park?
From what I remember, yes.
Okay.
It looks
Is
like
this
the ramp?
that fence? Is that a fence by the shell casings?
Yes, it is.
Okay. From your recollection, are the shell casings on the side of the fence of the business? Well, does that fence separate the business park property from adjoining property?
I believe it separates it from another property.
Okay. And those shell casings, are they on the property of the business park or the adjoining property?
I actually believe the adjoining property, but like I said, it's been years. I don't remember exactly.
Understood. The actual studio itself,
Yes, sir.
the outside of the structure, did you observe any defects in the studio?
Not that I remember, just the vehicles, from what I remember.
Okay, just the vehicles. And when you say the vehicles, you're referring to the vehicle that was pulled over?
Yes.
And also that purple vehicle?
Yes.
Ms. Hilton, if you could do me a favor, Indigo 28. Thank you. And this is, of course, the purple vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that night, of course, you've identified the 2 defects to the windshield, rear
Yes, sir.
windshield?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you ever find the projectiles associated with those?
The shell casings or the projectiles themselves?
Projectiles.
The projectiles, not that I remember, no.
Okay. And as part of your investigation, you were, at that time, not able, am I correct that you were not able to determine the owner of this vehicle, or were you?
Not at that time, no.
Okay. Were you in subsequent investigation, or did it remain unclear to you?
It remained unclear. I did not know.
Okay.
So,
Now, you said that you, the owner of you wanted to further your investigation upon arriving at the scene and seeing this vehicle, correct?
yes, sir.
And at that time, you had not been able to speak to the owner of the vehicle, and you, other than the person that was pulled over, you weren't able to speak to anyone on the scene, correct?
Yes, sir. No one else.
Okay. So, is it fair to say that you wanted to speak to the people on the scene?
Say it again?
You desired to speak to the people on the scene?
Yes.
Further your investigation?
Yes.
Okay. And your testimony was that the owner of the studio did not want to come out. Okay, so I want to talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
How did you attempt to make contact with the owner of the studio?
I honestly don't remember. I don't remember, but I know we did attempt like to see the owner would come outside. I think we may have spoke to Mr. Rivers, but that was it. Like,
Oh, would it have been through phone? Did you see anyone in the studio?
didn't see anybody, no.
Okay.
And through phone, I don't think so.
Do you know who the owner of the studio is?
No.
Or who refused to come out?
No, I did not.
Have you testified you know of someone named Rich Homie Kwan? Do you know him to have been on scene at that time?
I didn't, no.
Okay. No, you don't know, or no, he wasn't?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't know at all.
How about Donovan Thomas, who goes by nickname Peanut? Do you know if he was on the scene that night?
Not at all, no.
You don't know?
No, I do not know. I do not know.
But according to your investigation, there were people within the studio that were refusing to come out.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else from the defense with questions? All right, redirect.
Very briefly. Officer Williams, the shell casings that we've seen and you described, were they found in the area which was described as to where Mr. Rivers had been parked previously?
Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
Shell casings that you found, were those in the area where Mr. Rivers had been parked previously before you encountered him traveling down Metropolitan?
They were close by. Yes, sir.
And Mr. Shart asked you if you knew if Donovan Thomas or a person named known as Rich Homie Kwan, if you knew if they were there. Do you remember that? Do you remember him asking you that?
I remember, yes.
And to your recollection and your review of your reports and the materials before testifying, did you ever speak to either a Donovan Thomas or a Rich Homie Kwan?
No,
Never encountered
neither.
them?
Never, neither.
Nothing further.
Anything else?
So just one quick question. The people that were there, they refused to speak to you, right?
The people that were there, for what I remember, we just didn't speak to anyone else there, but I don't know if anyone else refused to come outside.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am.
Step down, call your next witness.
They can call Officer A. Smith, Officer A. Holt.
Okay.
Yes. Officer Smith Holt, SMITH HOLT.
Officer,
You can call me Holt.
were you formerly Officer Holt?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Have you gotten married since April of 2015?
Divorced.
Okay. Apologize. And can you tell the jurors how you are currently employed?
I'm employed with the City of Atlanta Police Department as an officer.
And how long have you been employed with the City of Atlanta Police Department?
13 years.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, in your 13 years, where within the police department have you been assigned to work?
I was assigned in Zone 4, then Zone 2, and now I'm in Open Records.
Okay. And back on April 28th of 2015, can you tell the jurors what zone were you assigned to?
Zone 4.
Okay. And can you briefly you've heard about Zone 3 and where it is within the City of Atlanta. Where is Zone 4 contained?
Southwest Atlanta.
Okay. Can you help kind of orient the jurors and kind of explain to them, give them a landmark or a common place that helps you recognize?
If you're familiar with the Cascade area, Campbellton Road area, That's good. Okay.
And can you tell the jurors how long did you work as an officer in Zone 4?
Probably about 5 years.
Okay. And during those 5 years, and back on April 28th of 2015, can you tell the jurors what hours or what shift did you work as a patrol officer in Zone 4?
Mainly morning watch. Shift would be from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Okay. And can you describe to the jurors when you were on duty working 11 p.m. Into early morning, 7 a.m., what was your primary job responsibilities and duties while working as a patrol officer in Zone 4?
Answering 911.
Okay. And would you answer specific calls, or did you answer all calls that you were dispatched to within Zone 4 or somewhere else within the city of Atlanta?
All calls.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors back on April 28th of 2015 at around 5 a.m. Were you dispatched to the address 2900 Landrum Drive?
Yes, that's correct.
And can you tell the jurors, is that here within the city of Atlanta, Fulton County?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And I want to show you what's been marked States Exhibits 1, Delta, 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 O through 4, Delta, 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 O. Let's take a second and just take a look at these and let me know if you recognize them.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can you tell the jurors how you recognize the photographs in States Exhibit 1, Delta, Delta, O through 4, Delta, Delta, O?
This was the call I was dispatched to, 2900 Landrum Drive. I was dispatched to a person shot call.
Okay. And you said that this was around 5 a.m. that morning?
Yes.
And do the photographs in 1, Delta, 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 O through 4, Delta, Delta, O, do they fairly and accurately depict how the address, the apartment complex at 2100 Landrum Drive looked back on April 28th of 2015, roughly around 5 a.m.?
Yes.
This time around in the state of tender was the marked States Exhibit 1, DDDO through 4, DDDO.
Those are admitted.
Now, Officer Smith, can you tell the jurors when you arrived to the apartment complex, do you remember the name of the complex?
I believe it's Crystal something. Oh, Eagles Nest, okay.
1 DDD, does that help you recall what apartment complex you responded to back in Zone 4?
The sign looks familiar, but I don't remember the name exactly. Yes.
On the screen, you have it in front of you. Can you tell the jurors what the sign says in front of the complex at 2900 Landrum Drive?
Eagles Nest Apartments.
And in the photos that you looked at and that are now admitted into evidence behind it in 2 DDDO through 4 DDDO, is that the apartment, is the area within the complex that you responded to?
Yes.
Okay. And you said you responded to a person shot call?
Yes, that's correct.
And can you tell the jurors when you responded to that person shot call, what were the first things that you kind of did as related to that call?
Well, as I approached, I, of course, notified radio, and I proceeded to the apartment where the person was shot.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, without telling me what the person said, was it a male, female?
It was a female.
Okay. And do you recall the name of the female that was shot?
I believe it's Miss Kilpatrick.
Okay. And when you arrived,
Thank you. Okay. Antoinette Green, ANTONETTEGREEN.
So good afternoon. Can you tell the jurors how you are currently employed?
I currently work for the City of Atlanta Police Department Crime Scene Unit.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors how long you've worked with the City of Atlanta Police Department?
I've been with the City of Atlanta for 13 years.
Okay. And you just said that you work within the division, the crime scene tech division. Have you worked in that division for the entire 13 years that you've been employed?
Yes.
And can you briefly describe to the jurors, very briefly, when you arrive to a scene, what are, I guess, your roles and duties as you arrive and begin your part of the investigation?
Okay, when we arrive on the scene, we meet with the lead investigator or officer, and then we do a walkthrough of the crime scene. And then after that, we'll start the process of taking photographs and collecting evidence at that time.
Okay. Were you employed with the City of Atlanta Police Department within the crime scene tech division back on April 28th of 2015?
Yes.
13 years.
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, were you dispatched or called to a shooting scene, a person shot, call at 2900 Landon Drive here in Atlanta, Georgia?
Yes, I was.
And I want to show you State's Exhibits 5 DDDO through 70 DDDO. And tell me if you recognize those photos. And I know you're looking through them now, but prior to your testimony, have you had an opportunity to go through all the photographs contained in State's Exhibit 5 DDDO and through 70 DDDO?
Yes.
Multiple letters.
Yes.
And all the photographs that you're looking at now, you had an opportunity prior to your testimony to review, all of the photographs fairly and accurately depict the scene that you arrived to at 2900 Landon Drive on April 28th, 2015, roughly 5 a.m.
Yes, they do.
Your Honor, this time, State Defender, the remaining exhibits 5 DDDO through 70 DDDO.
They're admitted.
Okay, so I want to. Now, when you arrived to the scene, can you tell the jurors, I guess, the first steps you took as it relates to this crime scene?
Like I stated before, I met with the lead officer. We did a walkthrough of the scene. She pointed out all the evidence and anything of value she wanted me to collect and photograph. And then after I do that, I go back and I start from the beginning and start taking overalls of the scenes with the evidence and everything.
And can you tell me, what do you mean by overalls as it relates to the photographs that you take when you arrive at the crime scene?
Okay, overall is general, like a general area of the whole scene depicted in the photograph.
Okay. And after you take overall photographs, do you take additional photos of the area, I guess, which you just photographed, but kind of closer up?
Yes, after I do an overall, I do a mid-range, which is a little closer into the scene, and then I do a close-up of any evidence or anything they want me to be a close.
JERAMIEJOHNSON.
You gotta speak up for me, Mr. Johnson. Speak to the mic.
Yes, sir.
Where do you work?
Atlanta Police Department.
And what unit are you assigned to?
Atlanta SWAT.
Officer Johnson, can you speak your name into the mic?
Jeremy Johnson.
Thank you. And you said, how long have you been working with APD?
13 years.
And what unit are you assigned to?
Atlanta SWAT.
January 2015, what unit were you assigned to?
Zone 1, Morning Watch.
And what were the hours for Zone 1 Morning Watch?
10:30 to 6:30 in the morning.
Speak up just a little bit.
I got you.
I want to turn your attention to around 10:57 p.m., January 26, 2015, where you dispatched to 81 Arcadia Circle.
Yes, sir.
Is that in Fulton County?
Yes, sir.
Please tell the jury why you were dispatched to that area.
A person shot call.
Now, when you arrived, what did you observe?
I observed a Charger with bullet holes in it crashed into a tree.
Did you speak with anyone?
Yes.
Who did you speak with?
I spoke to Trevante Turner, Donald Humphrey, and Trayden Crawford.
Without telling me what they said, did they tell you what happened?
Yes.
Now, based on your observation, what was their physical condition like?
Mr. Turner, he was shot in the left arm and the side. And Trayden Crawford, he was shot in the ankle.
Did you canvass the area?
Yes.
And what did you find while canvassing the area?
9 shell cases.
Where were those shell casings located?
They was in the general area of Stanhope.
Do you know the caliber of those shell casings?
It was a 7.72 caliber.
Now, while also canvassing the area, did you notice any property damage to any other vehicles within the area?
Yes, it was a Kia. It was parked at 190 Stanhope Circle.
And what kind of damage was done to the Kia?
It was damaged, gunfire, due to gunfire to the front driver's side window.
What about any property damage to any homes within the area?
Yes, it was also damage to 186 Stanhope Circle, the front window of the location.